The crime that shocked an entire city, and how the truth finally came out. The house on Harlow Street. If you think you've seen it all in true crime, you haven't. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and brace yourself, because this story will make you question how well you really know your neighbors. It was a cold Tuesday morning in November when the quiet suburb of Brookdale woke up to sirens. The kind that cut through sleep, the kind that made curtains twitch and hearts race. Police cruisers lined Harlow Street, lights flickering against the neat rows of maple trees and white picket fences. By 7:12 a.m., the entire neighborhood knew something unthinkable had happened inside house number 42, the home of Martin and Elaine Grayson. When detectives arrived, the front door was ajar. Inside, the air smelled faintly of bleach, mixed with something metallic. The kitchen was spotless, unnervingly so. No dishes, no clutter. Just a single chair knocked over and a half-drunk cup of coffee gone cold on the counter. Upstairs in the main bedroom, they found Elaine. Her body lay still, pale and peaceful. Too peaceful for what had clearly been a struggle. There was no sign of forced entry. No robbery. Nothing stolen. Only one thing missing. Martin. Neighbors described the Graysons as picture perfect. Always together. Always smiling. Martin was an architect, quiet and polite. Elaine ran a small home bakery and was beloved by everyone on Harlow Street. But when police checked Martin's phone records, a different picture began to emerge. Late-night calls to an unknown number, deleted text messages, and then a photo recovered from Elaine's phone, a blurry picture of her husband with another woman at a downtown hotel. By mid-afternoon, the story hit the local news. Husband missing after wife found dead. Reporters swarmed the cul-de-sac. Theories spread fast. Had Martin killed Elaine and fled? Or had he been taken too? Police traced his car, a black Volvo, to an abandoned rest stop 20 miles outside the city. Inside the glove box were his keys, wallet, and wedding ring, but no sign of Martin himself. Detective Sarah Mills, a 10-year veteran of the department, took lead on the case. She was methodical, unflinching, the kind of investigator who could find truth in silence. People don't just vanish, she told her team, staring at a whiteboard filled with photos and timelines. Not without help. That night, they canvassed the area around the rest stop. The temperature dropped below freezing, and the wind carried the scent of wet asphalt and pine. Then, just past midnight, an officer spotted something in the ditch. Tire marks leading into the woods. Flashlights cut through the darkness, illuminating broken branches, muddy footprints, and eventually a shovel. Fresh dirt clung to the blade. They followed the trail another 50 yards until it opened into a small clearing. The ground there was recently disturbed, the earth soft and uneven. As they began to dig, the air grew heavy. And then, only 2 feet down, they hit something solid. Wrapped in a thick black tarp was another body. But it wasn't Martin Grayson. The medical examiner confirmed what no one wanted to believe. It was the missing woman from the photograph, the one seen with Martin at the hotel. Her name was Lily Trent. She'd been dead for at least a week before Elaine's murder. The discovery turned everything upside down. 2 bodies. 1 man missing. 1 affair exposed. Detective Mills felt in her gut. This wasn't a crime of passion. It was something much darker, something planned. As dawn broke over Brookdale, the media storm intensified. Headlines screamed betrayal, double life, love turned lethal. But behind the noise, Mills noticed a detail everyone else missed. Something hidden in the corner of the Graysons' garage. A small, dust-covered lockbox wedged behind paint cans and old tools. She lifted it out carefully, brushed it clean, and pried it open. Inside were stacks of old photographs, property documents, and 1 single flash drive labeled Project Eden. And that's when Mills realized this wasn't just a domestic tragedy. It was the beginning of something much bigger. Because when they opened the files on that drive, what they found changed everything. The secret files of Project Eden. If you think you've already figured out this case, think again. Hit that like button, because what happens next will make you question every headline you've ever trusted. The evidence lab was silent, except for the low hum of computers, as Detective Sarah Mills slid the flash drive into the workstation. She expected personal files, maybe hidden emails, secret photographs, but what appeared on the screen was far stranger. A folder structure filled with coded documents, spreadsheets, and encrypted images. Each file bore the same header: Project Eden Confidential. Mills frowned. "What the hell were you into, Martin?" she muttered. Within minutes, the department's cyber unit traced the encryption key back to a company registered under Martin Grayson's name, a private architecture firm that, on paper, specialized in high-end property design. But according to the data logs, Martin's firm wasn't just designing homes. It was mapping entire neighborhoods, with suspiciously detailed notes about property layouts, security systems, and blind spots. Detective Mills leaned closer. Some of the client names matched houses that had been burglarized in the past year. Unsolved break-ins where the security systems had been expertly disabled. It was the kind of knowledge only an insider could have. "Are we looking at an architect?" said one officer quietly. "Or an inside man?" That question echoed through the room. The theory forming now was worse than infidelity. It was betrayal on a criminal scale. Martin may have been selling his clients blueprints to thieves, giving them everything they needed to break in undetected. And now, two people connected to him, his wife and mistress, were dead. The deeper Mills dug, the clearer the picture became. Project Eden wasn't a design initiative. It was a list, a coded inventory of homes, valuables, and target schedules. Someone had been paying Martin for this information. Someone powerful enough to keep it quiet. At 2:47 a.m., Mills got a call from a state trooper station near the woods where Lily Trent's body was found. "Detective, you might want to see this." When she arrived, the scene was lit by floodlights. The trooper pointed to a small creek running behind the clearing. Half submerged in the water was a duffel bag, snagged on a tree root. Inside were bundles of cash, a burner phone, and a passport, issued in the name Mark Garrison. The photo was Martin's. The passport suggested he'd planned his escape. But where was he now? Later that morning, Mills visited the Graysons' office downtown. The blinds were drawn, the reception area empty. In Martin's workspace, she found something strange: an old rotary phone sitting on the desk, connected to a power outlet despite being decades out of use. She picked up the receiver. A faint dial tone, and then a click. Someone was on the other end. "Detective Mills," said a low voice. "You should stop digging into Project Eden. It's bigger than your badge." The line went dead. Her pulse quickened. The voice was calm, deliberate, not panicked. Whoever it was, they knew her name, her position, her investigation. And they were watching. By afternoon, Mills ordered surveillance around the Grayson property and a forensic sweep of all Martin's digital accounts. What they found shocked even the most seasoned officers: encrypted wire transfers from overseas, offshore accounts, and surveillance footage of Martin entering a luxury hotel 2 days before Lane's death. With him was an unknown man in a gray suit, carrying a briefcase. That same hotel security footage showed the man checking out alone the next morning. Martin never appeared again. Then, another twist. Fingerprint analysis from the flash drive came back. There was a second set of prints, not Martin's, not Elaine's, not Lily's. They belonged to someone already in the system, an ex-police officer. Detective Mills stared at the report, her throat tightening. The name was familiar. Robert Kane, a decorated cop who resigned years ago under mysterious circumstances. Rumor said he'd been tied to a corruption ring that sold insider information to organized criminals, a scandal buried before it ever reached the press. Kane's last known address? A small warehouse on the city's east side, just 3 miles from where Martin's car was found. Mills grabbed her jacket, ignoring her partner's warning. If Martin's alive, Kane knows where he is. They reached the warehouse just before midnight. Rain fell in steady sheets, washing the streets clean and cold. The building loomed like a forgotten relic, metal siding rusted and windows boarded up. Inside, the air reeked of oil and damp wood. Flashlights swept across crates, work tables, and scattered blueprints. Blueprints of the same houses listed in Project Eden. And there, in the center of the room, was a laptop still open and running. On the screen, a pause video. Security footage showing Martin bound to a chair, terrified, with Kane standing behind him. Before Mills could process it, a sound came from the shadows, the unmistakable click of a gun being cocked. "You shouldn't have come here, Detective," a voice growled from the dark. The beam of a flashlight swung toward the sound, and there he was, Robert Kane, older, colder, and smiling. "But since you're here," he said softly, "you might as well hear the truth about what Martin was building. The truth beneath Harlow Street. If you've made it this far, you deserve the truth. But I warn you, what you're about to hear will change the way you look at perfect neighborhoods forever. Hit subscribe now, because the ending of this story, no one saw it coming." Detective Sarah Mills froze as Robert Kane stepped out of the shadows, his gun glinting under the flickering light. His calmness was worse than any threat, that eerie, practiced stillness of a man who'd done this before. Rain drummed against the tin roof above them, the only sound breaking the suffocating silence. "Where's Martin?" Mills demanded, her hand hovering near her holster. Kane chuckled, lowering the gun just slightly. "He's closer than you think." Mills's flashlight swept across the floor, and then she saw it. A dark stain seeping from beneath a wooden trapdoor bolted into the concrete. The smell hit next, metallic, old and unmistakable. "Blood. Open it," she ordered. Kane didn't move. "You still don't get it, do you? Martin wasn't the architect of those crimes. He was the architect of something far more dangerous, something the city itself wanted buried." Mills lunged, slamming him against the wall, the gun clattering to the floor. They struggled, boots scraping across concrete, until she cuffed him with one arm twisted behind his back. Breathing hard, she looked down at the trapdoor again. It took 2 officers and a crowbar to wrench it open. The air that rose was cold and damp, the smell of earth and rot filling the room. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. Mills grabbed a flashlight and began to climb down. What she saw below would haunt her for the rest of her life. The basement stretched deep beneath the warehouse, concrete walls lined with shelves of labeled folders, hard drives, and storage crates. And in the center, lit by a single hanging bulb, was Martin Grayson. He was seated in a chair, wrists zip-tied, eyes open but lifeless. Dry blood streaked down from his temple. On the wall behind him, a message was scrawled in black marker. "Eden ends here." Mills swallowed hard, forcing herself closer. The smell of decomposition confirmed what she feared. Martin had been dead for days. A small laptop sat on a metal table beside him, its screen looping a silent video feed. It was security footage from various neighborhoods across the city, all the same suburban developments Martin's firm had designed. Each one showed figures moving in the dark, breaking into homes, disabling alarms, and leaving without a trace. But one file was different. It was labeled Brookdale_42, Martin's own house. Mills clicked play. The footage showed Elaine alive, pacing their kitchen late at night. Then headlights flashed outside. She looked up. Seconds later, 2 men in black entered the frame, one of them unmistakably Robert Kane. The other wore a city maintenance uniform. Together, they restrained Elaine while Martin shouted off-screen. The timestamp? The night before Elaine's murder. Kane's voice cut through the silence behind her. She found out. About the contracts. About the deals. We couldn't have her talking. Mills turned, fury boiling beneath her calm expression. "You killed her. You killed them all." "No," Kane said quietly. "I did what I was told." He nodded toward a box labeled Municipal Planning Records. Inside were documents bearing the city seal, permits, development blueprints, and budgets marked with red stamps. Confidential Infrastructure Redevelopment Project. Beneath them was a letter signed by a senior city councilman, one Mills recognized immediately. It hit her all at once. Project Eden wasn't about burglary. It was about control, a secret operation to gentrify entire districts by making them unsafe. Crimes were staged, property values crashed, and developers bought the land cheap. Martin had discovered the plan, tried to expose it, and ended up trapped between corruption and conscience. Elaine had learned the truth too late. Mills exhaled slowly, her flashlight trembling. "You buried them to protect the city's secret." Kane smiled faintly. "Not the city, the people who own it." Before Mills could react, he yanked a hidden knife from his boot and slashed at his wrist, blood spilling fast. "You'll never make them pay," he rasped, collapsing to the floor. "They'll bury this just like they buried Eden." By dawn, backup had arrived. Paramedics pronounced Kane dead at the scene. The warehouse was sealed off, its contents tagged for federal investigation. Yet within 48 hours, Mills received notice that her access to the case had been revoked. All files transferred. National security, they said. A week later, she drove down Harlow Street, past the Grayson home, now boarded up. Reporters had moved on. The neighbors no longer spoke of it. The city had paved over the past, just as it always did. As she sat in her car, she looked at the small USB drive she kept, a duplicate of the Project Eden files. She knew going public could end her career, or worse. But truth had a way of demanding to be heard. She started the engine, her eyes hard in the rear-view mirror. "They thought it ended here," she whispered. "But I'm just getting started." Because 3 nights later, another home designed by Martin Grayson went dark. Alarms offline. No signs of forced entry. And on its white fence, spray-painted in black, "Eden Lives." If you thought this case was over, the voiceover would whisper, fading into silence, "You're not ready for what comes next. Subscribe before Eden finds you."